Hey wrestling fans, this is Rick from rickswrestlingblog.com. Hey, I'm writing today about a storyline that I put up on my website. This is a storyline, well actually let me start this way. The WWE owns the NXT. The NXT is the WWE's developmental organization where they'll offer contracts, they bring people in and they wrestle and let's just see how they do. And obviously they get developed there, and if they do really well they can be promoted all the way up to the main roster. If they don't, they're let go. And sadly, a lot of people are let go, but a lot of people are brought up. Okay, so some recent ones are people like the Wyatt family. They've been brought up. The Shield, they were brought up. So there have been several others in the past too, because the NXT isn't necessarily new. They've had them for a while. So anyway, I wrote up this storyline, and it's in full detail on my website if you want to read it word for word. But in here, I'm just going to talk about it in general. I'm just going to kind of summarize. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring up a character called Paige. And she is known as the Anti-Diva of the NXT or the WWE. So I like her character. She doesn't want to be a diva. She wants to be the opposite, the Anti-Diva. So she's actually kind of cool. I've been watching her for a while, and she's entertaining. People, the fans are like her a lot. So I wanted to see how would the WWE bring her up to the main roster. So obviously, you know, it's not that I'm writing for WWE, I'm not, but in my mind, this is how I see it. And so I wrote a storyline on how the WWE can get her, put her into the main roster, start to get her into some kind of main events, get her into some pay-per-views, eventually get her into the title matches with AJ. So I wanted to share a little bit about that with you. Again, if you wanted to know in full detail, it's on my website. Go to my storylines and select the link there for my storyline, Paige the Anti-Diva, future WWE Divas Champion. Alright, but for the time being, we can talk about it a little bit here. So the Anti-Diva, if you don't know, she's had a war with Summer Rae in NXT for a while now. Now, they recently created the NXT Women's, or the NXT Divas Championship. So there was a tournament where eventually Summer Rae and Paige met each other again, even though they had a feud already. They met again for this tournament, and in this tournament, Paige won, becoming the very first NXT Divas Champion. And so, Summer Rae obviously has been NXT for a while, and she's still actually there in NXT wrestling quite a bit, even though she is on the main roster with Fandango. So anyway, that's just giving you a little foundation for this storyline. So as I go with my storyline here, I'm looking at Fandango, Summer Rae, they're wrestling. So I picked a character that they're not really doing a whole lot with. So I decided to pick The Miz, because they're really not doing a whole lot with Miz anyway. So my idea with my storylines is let's bring some people up a little bit. People that don't necessarily have a storyline, let's go ahead and get them some kind of storyline going. So remember, this is focused on Paige, but it's going to bring other people together. So anyway, knowing that Summer Rae's had this feud in the past, here comes Fandango, Summer Rae wrestling against The Miz, but Summer Rae is constantly getting involved. She gets involved, Miz either loses the match, or sometimes he may win by disqualification or something, but Summer Rae is always getting involved. So he has had enough. He issues a challenge to Fandango and Summer Rae, and by the way, there's a pay-per-view coming up right before when he issues this challenge. So I'm looking at my notes on my laptop here. And so there is a pay-per-view coming up where he issues the challenge to Fandango and Summer Rae, and he says, I will bring a partner, and they agree to this. And he says that his partner is called the Anti-Diva. Left it at that. Summer Rae knows exactly who that is. Others may not. But the pay-per-view is going to come around, which the pay-per-view would be TLC, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs. And so here comes the debut of Paige with Miz. They tag team, they fight. It turns out to be a pretty good match because Summer Rae and Paige have become some pretty decent wrestlers. So it should be a pretty entertaining match. And they end up, The Miz with Paige end up winning that match. Okay, so of course the following week on Raw comes, and I've got a few weeks here where Summer Rae's upset because, you know, Paige came and, you know, this is not her place. This is Summer Rae's domain kind of thing. They have some battles and then eventually lead into another pay-per-view against each other, which would be their final one. See, and I only stretch it for 2 pay-per-views, and they're not exactly the same either. Unlike the WWE that likes to push it for the 3 pay-per-views in a row. maybe 4 if we're lucky, right? So anyway, so I've got Summer Rae and Paige going at it one-on-one at SummerSlam. I'm sorry, SummerSlam. Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble's the next pay-per-view. So anyway, that supposedly ends the match. But then there's going to be a segment on Raw where AJ beats another diva. And she goes on an interview and she says, you know, there's no diva that can beat me. But then here comes Paige, comes around the corner, and she says, well, what about an anti-diva? And so here comes Paige throwing out the challenge. And of course, then a battle's going to start between AJ and Paige. I've got this going on where they are one-upping each other, not necessarily fighting each other, because I'm saving that for the pay-per-view. Don't really want them hitting each other or fighting at all, because, I mean, this is the one thing I really don't like as a fan is I don't want to see that match on Monday Night Raw, then watch it on SmackDown, and then possibly Raw again. Oh, and by the way, you're going to have to pay for that when you go watch it on the pay-per-view also. So I prefer that they can not have an official match. They can attack each other, but no official matches. So eventually I have a match at the Elimination Chamber where I've got all the divas battling it out for the #1 contender match for WrestleMania. And the reason I had to do it that way was because since you have Paige, who's still new, okay, how do you just put a new person in there and then you've got all the other veterans that have been around and, hey, wait a minute, isn't it my turn to hold the title? Well, that's why I made it this way. It would be a 12-woman battle royal at the Elimination Chamber, and I actually made it as the pre-show also. So I've got Brie Bella, Nikki, Natalia, Layla, Oksana, Tamina, Caitlyn, Alicia Fox, Summer Rae, Cameron, and Naomi, and so then they're all gonna do battle. I hope I named all 12, but they're all gonna do battle. But at the end of the day, Paige will win, and we'll have her chance. So of course, there's gonna be a few more Monday nights coming where AJ and Paige are gonna kind of one up each other. But then the week before WrestleMania, they will be in a tag team match where Paige will get an upper hand on AJ and actually pin her. And again, you'll see the details of my writing here on my website. So at the end of the day, you're still going to see Paige versus AJ for the Divas Championship at WrestleMania. Pretty nice build-up. Right here I have it something about a little more than 3 months. I think I went on the build-up. I think I went close to 4 months. So it was I think it was pretty decent. But I mean, if you got any ideas, sure, share them, please. So that's what I like to do. Just read some other people's ideas and see where we go from there. So anyway, at the end of the day, I actually show that Paige will not win the title. So I think she is still too new to win the title. But I think building her up and setting her up for WrestleMania and these two girls going at it and having a great match, that I think is going to be worth it. At the end of the day, AJ still retains the title, and then we can take Paige and either continue this a little bit or actually kind of, in my writing, I kind of pushed her off to Tamina so that they can kind of battle it out for a while, and then eventually Paige will get her chance. Just not yet. It was still a little too soon. So, hey, anyways, I want to know what you think. I want to know what you thought about the writing. Go on the website, go ahead and read it, and let me know. Post something. Let me know what your thoughts on it. Maybe it's a lousy idea. Maybe it stinks, but right now I don't see the WWE's creative writing being it hasn't been that great lately. So, anyway, just trying to get some ideas out there. All right. Hey, thanks a lot for watching and listening. Take care. Bye.